Thank you for joining us on our news desk yet again on QTV. Here are the headlines. First, the Drug Enforcement Commission, DEC, is investigating 16 cases arising from the latest Financial Intelligence Center, FIC Financing Trends Report. Energy Minister Mathew Nkuwa says load shedding hours could increase from the current 4 hours, depending on the amount of water that will be in the reservoirs by December 2019. Rainbow Party Secretary General Winter Kabimba says there is no need to review the Financial Intelligence Center FIC Act. With the news in detail, my name is Machamanda. The Drug Enforcement Commission, DEC, says it is investigating 16 cases arising from the 2018 Financial Intelligence Center Money Laundering and Terrorist Financing Trends Report. DEC Commissioner Alita Mbawe says the 16 cases represent 20% of the cases forwarded to the law enforcement agencies by the FIC and amount to approximately 22 million kwacha of the total amount indicated in the FIC Trends Report. Ms. Mbawe says the 16 cases are currently under investigation at various stages and that the public will be updated on the action taken at an opportune time in order to avoid jeopardizing the legal prospects of the cases. She has, however, expressed concern with the publication of raw intelligence data by the FIC, stating that this compromises investigations by law enforcement agencies. The DEC Commissioner says this is because the same intelligence report disseminated to the law enforcement agencies is also disseminated to the public and therefore jeopardizes investigations as the perpetrators are alerted and begin to destroy vital evidence. Ms. Mbawe states that in some cases, due to the manner in which information is verified, foreign nationals have fled the country upon realizing that they are under investigation following inquiries made by the FIC.
We do collaborate with the Financial Intelligence Center, but what we are calling for now is probably better ways of doing things. We've been having these financial intelligence reports, like we indicated, every year, but the results that come from it brings us to this level that we are at again today. When they disseminate the reports, it's like it makes members of the public agitated, thinking that everything that is in the report is gospel. It is intelligence information, which needs to be verified. So as such, this is why we are appealing to members of, to the FIC to change their modus operandi so that they disseminate what is for members of the public according to what is for members of the public. They disseminate what is for law enforcement agencies, strictly for law enforcement agencies. This intelligence report, when you bring it out to members of the public, it's bringing speculations. People are talking about it like the information is already verified and it is correct. It may be correct, but it needs to be followed up by proper investigations. After which, when we do the investigations, we arrest, we take to court. Usually when we investigate and we have arrested certain persons, we do announce certain cases that we feel are of interest to members of the public.
Minister of Energy Mathew Nkuwa says load shedding hours could increase from the current 4 hours if there will not be enough water in the reservoirs by December 2019. Speaking at a media briefing, Mr. Nkuwa says the country's energy deficit will increase to 273 megawatts as the year progresses. He says due to poor rainfall the country experienced during the 2018-2019 season, water in the national reservoirs has continued to recede, leading to a reduction in the operational and storage capacity required for optimal power generation. Mr. Nkuwa explains that the reduction has resulted in the downscaling of average power generation at Kariba North Bank Power Station from 500 megawatts to 390 megawatts from ZESCO out of the installed capacity of 1,080 megawatts for the rest of the year. He says the current rationing of power supply to both domestic and industrial clients by ZESCO is therefore inevitable. The minister has since advised electricity consumers and the general public to be energy efficient in their utilization of power and, where possible, use alternative sources of energy, as this will significantly help in managing the current deficit and reduce the impact on the economy.
ZESCO has since 1st June 2019 commenced load shedding management, and it will be rolled out across the country. The implementation of load management has been designed to run on a 24-hour period, with each customer experiencing the outage of a maximum of 4-hour period a day. The government therefore wishes to advise electricity consumers and the general public to be energy efficient in their utilization of electricity, and where possible to use alternative sources of energy, as this will help in managing the current deficit and reduce the impact on the economy. I wish to inform all ZESCO customers and stakeholders that ZESCO will endeavor to ensure that timely load management schedules are shared through various media platforms. In the meantime, the utility will continue to engage various customer categories to see how best the load management scheme will be employed in order to minimize the negative impact on socio-economic activities of the country.
Senior Chief Bright Nalubamba of the Ila people in Namwala district has died. Mbeza Traditional Council Premier Senior Headman Judge Chimbwe confirmed the death of Senior Chief Nalubamba, who died yesterday at the University Teaching Hospital UTH, where he was hospitalized after a short illness. Headman Chimbwe says the official mourning period for the late Senior Chief will commence on Sunday, 9th June 2019 at Mbeza village in Namwala district, in accordance with the Ila tradition. He further stated that burial arrangements will be announced later. And Headman Chimbwe says the people of Namwala district and the country at large have been robbed of a unifier. He explains that the late Senior Chief was instrumental in uniting the country. Headman Chimbwe says Senior Chief Nalubamba will be remembered as a person who rendered help to everybody in need. Senior Chief Nalubamba leaves behind a wife and 15 children. The late Senior Chief Nalubamba served for 2 terms as chairman of the House of Chiefs. This was contained in a statement issued to his niece in Lusaka. Government has reassured businesses that are owed VAT refunds that it will pay off all outstanding legitimate refunds. Finance Minister Margaret Mwanakatwe says once the goods and sales tax comes into force, reconciliations will be undertaken to close off the value-added tax. Mrs. Mwanakatwe states that a plan will be put in place on how government is going to liquidate the verified VAT refunds. The minister was speaking at a consultative meeting with the Zambia National Farmers Union ZNFU in Lusaka on the provisions of the goods and sales tax. And Mrs. Mwanakatwe has disclosed that her ministry has completed countrywide consultations ahead of the implementation of the sales tax.
I want to look on this as an opportunity and a final opportunity, because we are in the next week taking stock of all that we have gathered from our ventures around the country, and I want to believe that this is again that opportunity that provides me and my team from the ministry and from ZRA to engage with you on special matters to do with agriculture, to take stock and account of that in the regime that we are entering. So today, really, Mr. President, is one way I want to do a lot more listening than talking, and as I said, I want us to remain very, very open-minded. And yes, you have shared to me in the office about the situation on the imports. I want to suggest that it's about time we created that situation where we can say no to certain products that we're producing in enough quantities.
And ZNFU Executive Director Ella Chembe says the union expects government to exempt taxation on all agriculture products that are currently VAT zero rated.
And also there is a list of items which are on the deferred list for VAT. And these items have found their way onto the deferment list after years and years of consultation. And they have a huge bearing on the production processes for the agriculture sector in Zambia. And we did submit that we'd like all those items that are on the VAT deferment list to be on the sales tax exempt list. And I was actually encouraged when I heard the presentation by the Director of Direct Taxes, so the Commissioner of Direct Taxes, saying that this is what has actually transpired. But probably I would wish to add that what would be comforting to us is if we actually saw the list, because we did also see the list which was updated on the 23rd of May. And after circulating to members, we have seen quite a number of items which are not reflected on that list. And because of that, we have compiled a list which we followed up and shared with the Ministry of Finance. And I'm hoping they're working on it.
Speaking earlier, ZNFU President Jervis Zimba says farmers are this year planning to upscale production with the view of reducing imports of agricultural produce grown locally. Mr. Zimba, however, states that farmers are facing a challenge of debt with the banks and are hoping government could consider some debt relief.
Yesterday we had a very big stakeholders meeting to look at why should we import things we can grow. And we feel that as Zambian farmers we can try and change this country by really accelerating to grow what we can grow and do the value chain, which we have been pursuing. I think through your Minister of Finance, we have always been very supportive of value addition, and the farmers, this is what they are looking for. So we want this year alone, I think we just want to look at the issue of expansion of the growth in the agricultural sector by reducing imports so that at least we are able to feed the nation, and perhaps a bit of excess we are looking at the DRC market. So there are a bit of challenges like I briefed in the office regarding the financial debt which is around the banks. You know, about 30% of the debt portfolio on the agriculture sector of the banks is on agriculture. And we are hoping that you can look at this issue of how you can actually have a bit of a debt relief for our farmers so that in a given time the farmers are able to repay it. And we need a fresh start in agriculture. Yes.
Rainbow Party Secretary General Winter Kabimba says there is no need to review the Financial Intelligence Center FIC Act as suggested by President Edgar Lungu. Mr. Kabimba says what the Zambian people ought to do is to acquaint themselves with the operations of the FIC. In an interview with the Q News, Mr. Kabimba has also disagreed with those implying that by making its report public, the FIC is putting itself in a controversial position. He has argued that by making its reports public, the FIC is basically doing what it is supposed to do, especially that it does not take its reports to Parliament.
For me, I don't even see that as alarming the public, and he was trying to say, can we revisit the law that establishes the FIC? No, I don't think there is cause to revisit the FIC legislation. I think what we ought to understand is how the FIC works and how it relates with other investigating agencies. I think that's what we ought to understand. I think that's what the public should demand. What is FIC? What is its mandate? How does it relate to ZRA? How does it relate, to DEC, for example? How does it relate to the police? I think that's the information that must come out in the public domain. I think the approach should be that now that the DEC, for example, has got names, okay? I think the DEC must have a duty to the public to say, we are investigating the following people. There's nothing defamatory about that.
The Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, JCTR, is urging government through ZESCO to logically load shade in a manner that will not adversely affect strategic businesses, such as small-scale businesses where the majority poor strive to make a living. In a statement, JCTR Executive Director Father Emmanuel Mumba says long hours of load shedding will likely deteriorate the economy and general welfare of citizens due to reduced economic productivity. Father Mumba says there is need to consider the diversification of power generation, noting that there has been so much effort and concentration on hydropower generation. He says a government needs to invest more to expand its power sources to include alternatives such as solar energy and biofuels, as these will not only be cheaper but will also be more sustainable. Father Mumba notes that there have been pronouncements in line recently and in the past, but with little commitment, stressing the need to move away from mere rhetoric. The JCTR Executive Director states that there will also be need for a clear plan on how the country would transition to other sources of energy. Father Mumba adds that alternatively, government needs to consider attracting investment in hydropower generation in the northern region where currently rains seem to be more certain. The National Restoration Party NAREP has described the suggestion by the Drug Enforcement Commission, DEC, to regulate the operations of the Financial Intelligence Center as shocking. NARP spokesperson Bwalya Nondo has accused the Commission of allowing itself to be used by the Patriotic Front and other prominent individuals to cover up the alleged corruption currently taking place in the country. Mr. Bwalya has charged that this is common sense, that the DEC is compromised and selective when it comes to fighting corruption. He says contrary to the suggestion by the DEC, the FIC should be given more powers to prosecute corruption cases.
The Financial Intelligence Center be given powers and tooth to bite. We want this institution to begin prosecuting all routine cases involving public funds, because it's too much. We cannot be singing about corruption day in and day out without any action. And we hear now from the Drug Enforcement Commission wanting to side with the corrupt. What kind of an institution is this? We want to make it very clear that time has come for us to stand up and make sure that each and everyone is accountable. We cannot be having excuses from the president. Last time he said no, he was not actually given the report. This time around he's saying no, there are no names.
Oxfam Zambia Gender and Justice Coordinator Twambo Mtinta has expressed concern on the low participation of women in mining in the country, which is estimated at 6.3% compared to 96.7% for men. Speaking when he made a presentation on gender participation in the mining sector at the just-ended annual Sinazongwe District Alternative Mining Indaba, Mr. Mtinta has attributed this to some cultural norms. He says there is no justification as to why only men should benefit from the mining sector. Favorite Kalando was in Sinazongwe and brought us this report.
The country's economy has historically been based on the mining industry, with copper, emerald, gold and coal being at the center of the industry. Other than being the major source of revenue, the mining industry is also a source of employment. Despite this fact, what is worrying to those who advocate for gender equality in various sectors of the economy, the industry is mostly perceived as a male-dominated. As that is not enough, women are subjected to unequal employment and leadership opportunities in the mining sector compared to their male counterparts, yet they play a significant role in reducing poverty at both household and community level. The trend has continued to trigger concerns from the community. Speaking when he made a presentation on gender and mining at the just-ended District Alternative Mining Indaba in Mamba of Sinazongwe District of Southern Province under the theme, "It's Our Natural Resources, Our Heritage, Our Lives," Oxfam Zambia Gender and Justice Coordinator Twambo Mtinta noted that women participation in the mining sector is estimated at 6.3%, while men are at 96.7%, a situation he described as unfortunate.
This tells me that if I went to Nkandabwe mine, I know they are not from Nkandabwe or Mamba coal mine, it tells me that if you have employed 50 people at Nkandabwe mine, maybe only 5 are women. This is a general statistic I'm giving her. But I'm very happy that there is a lady there who is part of management from Nkandabwe mine, which is a very good development. If you went to Mamba coal mine, out of 1,000 workers, maybe only 30 are employed as women. The other women who are employed, maybe they are just selling ice blocks, they are selling things outside the mine. That's a kind of employment which women are benefiting from this mine.
He also explained some norms contributing to low participation of women in the mining sector.
Even history tells us that in the past, if a woman goes underground, they will say that the minerals will disappear. If a skate goes underground, there will be bad luck in terms of production. Is it not true? There were stories that the woman should not enter underground. If she enters underground, there will be bad luck. They will stop producing a lot of minerals.
But what are the views of the community on the subject at hand?
Let us have our minds changed so that we put our women also to be at the par with us. They are human beings just like us. It's only that God made a man and a woman. Without a woman, no man can be there.
In our work, the WTC, there was a moment when we were given the opportunity to employ people. we considered 30% of the women. I think I would like to make with those that are enriched with information like this, like to do more of women workshops so that perhaps the mindset in our women can also be changed.
The low participation of women in the mining sector is not the only issue that has come to the attention of various key players from different sectors of the economy. Bruce Choma, who is National Coordinator for Disability Rights Watch, an organization whose focus, among others, is to promote and speak out on the rights of people with disability, has recommended the need for mines to consider including persons with disabilities in their workforce.
The state must do its job. Like I've said, the policy and legal framework is progressive. As a disability sector, we acknowledge the fact that there's a Disability Act in place. We have signed international conventions. The government has a duty to do that. But secondly, we must ensure that the corporate actors do their job in protecting the rights. And thirdly, there must be mechanisms. If somebody lost a job and if you are fairly dismissed, maybe you are dismissed because of your disability, you can report that to us and we'll be happy to take up the matter and engage on your behalf. So that by all means possible, we protect you and ensure that your rights are respected. Okay? So we are saying there must be policy measures in place to ensure that everyone has access to productive assets, including land. So
it is obvious that the implication is that if the mining and gender policy frameworks at the mines remain weak, women and the disabled will continue to be underrepresented or marginalized in the mining sector. But all these challenges can be dealt with by ensuring that mining firms have a documented gender and disability policies. Favorite Kalando.
The just ended Sinazongwe District Alternative Mining Indaba has called for the development of a clear mechanism to provide clear guidelines on revenue sharing between the mines and the community. According to a communique read by Indaba chairperson Father Emmanuel Chikoya, mining companies should be clear on how much women benefit from the industry. The Indaba has further recommended that government and the mines should formulate gender policies that are able to integrate the interest of women. It has also noted the need to review the compensation and settlement policy and put in place legislature to support such policy. Government has also been urged to take keen interest in monitoring the implementation of labor laws by mining firms.
We urge community to determine whose responsibility it is to provide projects and facilities such as making roads, building health facilities and providing clean water. We know that the mines are just supplementing. The church and other civil society entities just supplement. The responsibility falls on government. We urge the community in Kandabwe and other stakeholders to make a follow-up on the pledge that Column Core Mines made to the community to submit a list of developmental needs. Sometimes we are also a problem because we are not clear what we want to be done.
Meanwhile, Center for Environmental Justice Executive Director Boniface Mumba has appealed to the mining companies in the Sinazongwe district to implement the recommendations contained in the communique so as to improve the welfare of the people in the district.
I would like to bring some of the declaration and also some of the demands in terms of the processes that the commitment that the mining industries can be able to put on the table and be able to address them and commit to addressing them. But what we also need is the demands that government should also be flexible and review certain policies and legislation that is not friendly in terms of achieving community sharing or community beneficiation. So there are a number of challenges that we have highlighted, but what is key is that this dam creates a platform of continuous engagement, a platform of reflection. So this is a process that will run for the next 1 year, for the next 12 months, before we get to another dam. That will be the third dam. So I think what is key for us as stakeholders from Center for Environment Justice, CCZ, CTPD, CSO POG, Social Forum, and all others. I mean, we have Caritas, we've got Zambia, Publish What You Pay, all those stakeholders that are doing projects, and Oxfam, not to mention. Those that are doing a lot of projects here, we hope that we can create a sustainable platform that is very coherent with a lot of activities going around in this community.
The law enforcement agencies in the country have been encouraged to continue complementing government's zero tolerance to corruption. Lusaka Province Permanent Secretary Elias Kamanga says the government is pleased that law enforcement agencies have taken steps to combat corrupt tendencies in their operations. Mr. Kamanga says the PF government values all efforts that law enforcement agencies are making to promote integrity and enhance service delivery. Speaking when he opened a joint integrity awareness workshop for the DEC, ZRA, ACC, RTSA, Zambia Police and Immigration Departments in Lusaka, Mr. Kamanga says integrity and enhancement of service delivery by law enforcement agencies will result in greater national security and the trust of cooperating partners in Zambia's governance system.
Indeed, it is very clear to see that when these government agencies deal successfully with integrity issues and combat corrupt tendencies in their operations, the following benefits, among others, will certainly emerge. There will be greater security for our country. Also, we expect to see increased confidence and trust by all stakeholders in our governance systems. So it's very important. The fight against corruption is a sure way for us as a country, for us as institutions to gain the necessary confidence by both the public and also the investor and international community. We will also expect greater compliance with the law. There will be reduction in the cost of doing business.
Speaking earlier, ACC Deputy Director General Rosemary Kuzwayo affirmed the Commission's commitment to strengthening partnerships in the fight against corruption. Ms. Kuzwayo says the ACC hopes that all law enforcement agencies will sustain these partnerships.
Corruption reduces productivity of public investment, it reduces government revenue due to tax evasion, it undermines confidence in public institutions, and limits the development of small and medium enterprises, among other social evils. It is in recognition of these challenges that the fight against corruption requires concerted efforts at all levels and cannot be won without the participation of all stakeholders such as you. Therefore, this program by the 6 government agencies is one such way that stakeholders can participate in the fight against corruption. The Anti-Corruption Commission will continue supporting such partnerships that are aimed at combining efforts of government agencies in an effort to fight corruption in our country. It is the wish of the Anti-Corruption Commission as a coordinating agency that the 6 government agencies will continue and sustain this partnership.
Zambia Center Cybersecurity Initiative Foundation President John Shinseki has advised journalists in the country to safeguard their gadgets from any possible cyber attacks. Mr. Shinseki says cybercrime has now become a serious source of concern, hence the need to be cautious about the type of information that is shared on social media platforms. He adds that it is also important to avoid sharing personal and private information on online platforms, as this has the potential oneself to unscrupulous people. Mr. Shinseki adds that the foundation is keen to share awareness about the dangers of cybercrime to help reduce the number of victims that will fall prey to cybercrime.
It's not every time that you should let people know where you are, what you are doing. It's not every link that you should click. It's not every number that you should get. It's not everything that you have to share about yourself. You have to be cyber smart and don't share every private things with the people out there, because cybersecurity is now, the cybercrime is now serious. People are waiting for us to share this, especially before the attackers. Do not use the same phone number for a lot of other accounts and same email address, because you can easily be caught up in the mix and have information itself and identity stolen by cyber attackers who are every day now and then wanting to get information about ourselves. And journalists, They house a lot of information for presidents, ministers, and those diplomats around there on their phones and gadgets. So it's very important for them to safeguard their gadgets from any possible phishing and cyber attacks.
And Bloggers of Zambia has expressed concern that the media environment in the country is not conducive to practice good journalism due to several barriers. Speaking during a workshop aimed at strengthening police and the media relations, Bloggers of Zambia Chief Executive Officer Richard Mlonga says certain laws do not allow or make it safe for journalists to practice independent journalism. Mr. Mlonga says the workshop is therefore meant to enhance relations between the police and journalists, considering that many journalists often face problems with the police in the course of work. He says the workshop also aims at enhancing professionalism among journalists by going back to the basic ethics of journalism.
We are implementing a project called Police Media Relations for the Safety and Security of Journalists in Zambia. This is a project we are doing in partnership with the Foreign Ministry of Germany through the German Embassy in Lusaka. So what we want to achieve to enhance the relationship between the police and the media in Zambia, because we have seen often that when we are working as journalists and as bloggers or content creators, we often have problems with the police, where the police sometimes stand in the way of how journalists are going to gather, process and publish news. Especially, for example, during events when journalists are covering VIPs such as the president and so on and so forth. But also, apart from trying to enhance the security and safety of journalists, we also want to enhance professionalism among journalists ourselves. We want to ensure that we get back to our basic ethics of journalism, of being truthful, being fair, of being objective, balanced, and all this and that.
The Movement for National Transformation, MNT, has held the manner in which Amos Chanda quit his job as Special Assistant to the President for Press and Public Relations. MNT President Daniel Shimunza says Mr. Chanda has demonstrated maturity in the manner he has resigned. He says this is how resigning from the public service ought to be done. Mr. Shimunza has told ACUNews that the outgoing presidential press aide therefore deserves to be commended.
Public service is about national duty and a sacred commitment to patriotism with a responsibility of fulfilling one's purpose in life. Life is about decisive action and execution of purposeful ideas in order to make a lasting, indelible mark of contribution in both your generation, nation, family, as well as the kingdom of God. The resignation of Mr. Amos Chanda has caught my heart in the sense that he has followed his inner voice to make his contribution and leave the stage when he feels that there are other responsibilities to pursue in life. We all have a legacy to make cumulatively on a daily basis by doing the most important things that are productive. Not all activities of life equate productivity, and we must never major on minors of life and minor on majors of life. Life requires a proactive approach that makes us to make a contribution that will be a legacy for eternity.
And the Zambia Direct Democracy Movement, ZDDM, has commended outgoing presidential spokesperson Amos Chanda for taking a bold decision to resign. ZDDM Vice President Charles Kafumbo says Mr. Chanda has read and analyzed the National Dialogue Forum Constitution Amendment proposal, which requires civil servants to resign 2 years before they can seek political office. He says Zambians should therefore not politicize his resignation, but rather respect his decision.
There are some underlying causes that needed to be tackled head on. For example, corruption, which is endemic. Certain key players within our nation are asking for lifestyle audit on our public.
I apologize for the wrong bite. However, that marks the end of the news. But before I take a run, a recap of stories in the headlines. The Drug Enforcement Commission, DEC, is investigating 16 cases arising from the latest Financial Intelligence Center, FIC, Financing Trends Report. Energy Minister Matthew Nkua says load shedding hours could increase from the current 4 hours depending on the amount of water that will be in the reservoirs by December 2019. And Rainbow Party Secretary General Winter Kavimba says there is no need to review the Financial Intelligence Center Act. That's it for the news. Bye-bye. Continue watching QTV. God bless.